welcome back to Chemist Confessions, the podcast. I'm Gloria.
I'm Victoria.
We're just two skincare chemists here to talk about all things skin science, having a very casual human conversation
Over a cup of tea.
A cup of tea with
Whiskey.
rum. It's getting cooler here, so we thought a hot cocktail is what we're gonna do. It does not taste good because we're not bartenders.
No bueno. And, since it's getting colder, what better time than to talk about a very boring but important topic of dry skin.
Yep, today's all about moisturizing that dry skin. But before we get into our brand updates and the news and the meat,
I'm listening.
I have a little icebreaker for Victoria. Ooh. I realized that the two of us never talk about our celebrity skin goals. And recently, I had a very strange skin inspiration.
Okay.
So for our listeners, Victoria and I play in the same fantasy football league.
Sure do.
It is a very hostile environment.
Talk about a tragic year.
But yeah, so because of this, we've been watching a lot of football. And recently, I've noticed that Drew Brees got a huge retirement glow up.
Really?
Yes.
I haven't seen him lately.
Yeah, so I was watching the game last night. He was on ESPN. And I was like, is that Drew Brees? He looks amazing. Like, the man is glowing. And so Drew Brees is my latest really strange celebrity skin inspiration.
Not who I thought you would say. Also, but I guess it makes sense because, maybe just not getting pummeled by a bunch of 400-pound men.
That might help.
Life's going up.
Yeah, and whatever ESPN skin regimen they put on him, like, seriously, and look at a picture of him now. The man reverse aged like 15 years.
I applaud you for not saying Tom Brady, though, which I feel like is what everyone says.
Yeah. But my sister did point out Mitchell Trubisky has great skin. I'm like, who the hell notices Mitch Trubisky's skin?
I will say, in terms of hair, really not into Aaron Rodgers' hair lately. It's a mop underneath the helmet. It just doesn't look very good.
And when he takes out his hair, it looks like an extra greasy mullet.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, that's my latest celebrity skin inspiration.
Football goals, skin goals.
Or any skin goals. I just noticed Drew Brees, and I'm like, huh.
I have to say also, like, Russell Wilson never ages.
Yes!
Like, he might be on Sierra's, like, skincare regimen, so I feel like that would be a guy who I personally have a lot of pain with in terms of fantasy, but also have to applaud him for just never aging.
May you have a speedy recovery.
Yes. Hope that finger is okay.
Yes. Anyway, so that's the little icebreaker we have.
Nice.
So it's time for a little brand update. What have we been up to, Victoria? Tell me, what have we been doing?
Oh, God. All right. I think it's about time we kind of talk about what is going on with Mr. Reliable. We've dragged this on for about
half a year.
Yeah. And if you've been listening to our podcast, we've been talking about it for over half a year. But it's gotten to a point now where after we finished the hatchery and we got some feedback, we've had to decide to go with a completely different direction in terms of formula base. However, that means that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to, like, improve the texture, but we think that this formula base is going to take us further and we'll be able to work with better actives. So what that means for everyone that's been trying to wait for the next gen launch is that it's still going to be
It's going to be a little bit. Yeah, ultimately what Victoria means, well, we're taking everyone's round one feedback from the hatchery, which has been super helpful. And just going to make it better. The winner is actually, in terms of just raw number of votes, it's the second place compared to one of the test formulas and the original formula.
Just
very so slightly
thin margins.
Yeah, the good thing is both new formulas beat the original Mr. Reliable. But the reality is the other formula that had the most number of votes, we have pushed that baby to the border. Like, there's not much else we can tweak. By that we mean how Victoria and I work is we list out everything we want in this formula.
Our dream formula.
Our dream list. And this base is like, I'm not really designed to hold that many active ingredients, so I don't want to do that for you. So there's not a lot we can do. If we tweak it even a little bit, it's a
yeah, exactly. I just feel like we like have this whole laundry list, and then we go to each formula-based technology, and then we're like, "Can you load that's what?" And then no. Our original's like, "No, please no."
Yeah, so that's why that even though that is the current favorite formula, it's at wit's end. So we are just gonna work on improving the other one.
Yep. Exactly. We're gonna do a quick switch on you guys because the actual launch that is coming up soon is double play.
Double play.
And if you're like, "Okay?" Yeah. So double play is going to be our retinol product. Mm-hmm. There will be more details to follow. But that is the actual launch that will be coming up in about a month. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
That one
it's about to go into production, so it seems like it's coming into fruition.
Yay. This one we've been working on for a really long time. We actually did a hatchery in 2019 pre-COVID on it, and it did really well, but because of the COVID situation, a couple of our clinical testing had to get pushed back. It was it was pretty bad. So, but the good thing is it's finally happening. And in that time, we were able to learn so much more about this formula. So really excited to share more by the next episode and definitely before November.
Yeah. But in the meantime, that's all the news we have in terms of brand. Time to share a few good words. Yay. All right. So first one.
The first one is for Cactus Deluxe Dry Skin Kit. Oh. And that one has an Aquafix and the Better Oil to help layer. Mm-hmm. And Joanne wrote, I finally found a skincare system that works. I started using this Cactus Dry Skin Kit a few weeks ago. I've gone slowly in starting each new product to keep irritation and staying at bay. Very good. Very, very good. Always patch test, even though our products are designed to be soothing. Everyone's skin's unique. Mm-hmm. Low and slow is how you start every product. I can now see an improvement in my fine lines and the brightening of my skin. The Better Oil has helped tremendously with dryness of my mature skin, and I'll never go back to other products now that I found what works for me. Thanks so much for the lovely chemist. Hey, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I need to say any more. That's just the right way to try new products, and just glad that combo has worked. It's actually Gloria's favorite combo.
Yes, that's my go-to during winter.
Yeah, so awesome. All right, next one is about a product of ours that you probably don't hear too much about. It's our Bon Voyage Soothing Occlusives. So the review is titled Glowy Skin Ahead. And so this person says, I put this on top of my rosehip oil a few nights a week. Great, because that should be your last step, and wake up with the most amazing, glowy, hydrated skin. It took a while to realize, but I now attribute good skin days to whenever I use this on top of my usual skincare the night before. Small amount for the price, but a little goes a long way.
Ew!
Yay!
So Bon Voyage was a pain in the ass.
I feel like every story we talked about per formula has been a pain in the ass at some point.
So the balm is a petrolatum-based balm, and we had two goals in mind when we developed this product, which is, one, we wanted to add a blend of nice oils and waxes to it so that it takes away that shine heaviness of pure petrolatum. Mm-hmm.
People can tell when you use Vaseline.
Yes, and then functionalize the ingredient with a high level of active ingredients. We have 1% ceramides in this baby, and we also have a very high concentration of boswellia serrata extract as the soothing ingredient. Mm-hmm. So all that meant that this base is incredibly expensive. So I'm glad you noticed the price.
We never said we were business people.
Yeah. No, that was one where we literally got the price tag of the formula. We're like, oh, that seems pricey, but it's going to be so worth it. And then we were like, man, but it's going to be hard to explain to people that 1% ceramide is a very important.
Yeah. And I mean, when we first started, we realized no one could understand when we kept saying like we were the people crazy enough to put in 1% ceramide.
Like, yeah, that's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, you just don't realize like how expensive that raw material can be. Like, let's just say it makes our contract manufacturer that we work with very nervous. So all in all,
it's so expensive. You can buy a little Ziploc bag of it.
Not shady at all.
Yeah, not at all. We're just like.
Yep.
Yeah, so. But really glad that it is well appreciated here. It's also, it's kind of my baby for a while because I love petrolatum-based products, but A, there's not a lot of it on the market because the name's been dragged through mud, and B, it just, most of the texture out there is garbage and doesn't do much in the long term, so. Yeah.
I would say that, we are, like, very protective of this formula because if you think about it, it's a pretty tough space, right? Vaseline is so cheap. So how can you justify paying this, like, premium formula? But we know that there's so much more in this category that you can do with it. And we just, as always, our mission was to do better. It just came at a price.
That's something that, I always thought, it's like, oh man, if Chemist Confessions somehow goes belly up, I need a tub of this because no one's going to make this for me anymore.
Exactly. So, but awesome and so glad. I think, for me at least, it's one that I use spot treat, especially for winter because I get more like combo skin. And I tend to have, like, my lips, my elbows, and hands, like, really start chapping. I get the chap skin. So then, anyways. All right. So, good news. And it's time for actual news.
In the news. So, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this year's winding down. And now we are starting to see articles for skincare. We're going to be okay. We're going to get the new Mr. Reliable done. It's going to happen. But yes, I'm starting to see news articles about what's to come in skincare trends for 2022.
I felt like we just did that episode on the trends of 2021.
I know. Yeah, here we are again.
Okay, hit me.
There's a few things that I wanted to point out. One is waterless beauty. So so there's a few brands out there now that touts waterless beauty. Some just sell soap, which cool. There's very little water in bar soap, and then some sell moisturizers that's waterless. Sometimes they position it as ultra concentrated. Like it's not diluted by water. Some position it as a sustainability story, like we're not wasting water here. How do we feel about waterless?
Well, let's just say that we understand the sentiment of if it's not diluted, it means it's more potent. But there's a very key component that people are forgetting is that water is the ultimate solubilizer for a lot of actives, and you need that in order to actually penetrate to your skin. So it's not just diluting, it's actually a carrier. And I think that that's been forgotten. Basic chemistry, like you need, it's a very important component to a formula. I will say this is not my favorite trend.
It's there to dilute, but dilution is not a bad thing.
Right.
And I also want to add that we'll touch on it in the meat. A lot of waterless beauty means you will miss out on a chunk of really helpful ingredients in skincare.
And a lot of actives that need water.
So anyway, not our favorite trend.
What else you got?
The next is been going on for this is not a new trend. This has been going on for like a decade.
Okay.
Victoria and I, back when we were working for a big corporate beauty, also worked on this. Yes, personalization and customization skincare.
So novel.
Yes. So this now comes with a lot of gadgety testing kits. You'll see a lot more genetic tests and also microbiome tests. Comes in a swab, a little whatever, and you send the test back, and they give you your customized skincare. Victoria and I have. I don't really believe in the execution of anything where you send the test to a lab result. The reality is kind of cool that you can take your DNA test or your microbiome test and you get a result back and say, hey, you're acne prone. You're like, no shit, Sherlock. I've been growing. You know, like, it will tell you things that you might already know.
We're just not there yet.
We're just not there.
Yeah. And also, like, how do you bridge that info to
with
skincare?
A formula. Yeah. You know, like, we've dabbled in those projects, not by our own free choice, but we dabble in those projects, and the reality is, you know, like,
held hostage.
Yeah, your DNA is not going to tell a chemist whether or not algae extract belongs in your skincare or not. You know, squalane is good across most skin types because of vanilla oil. You're never going to get a microbiome test that tells you, don't use squalane unless you're allergic to it. You know, like, that's just... So, for me, the only, like, any sort of test that's helpful is actually just an allergens test. But, yeah, anyway, that's all.
I have a tinfoil hat theory, which we haven't had one in a while. I actually think the concept of personalization makes formulation worse. I think it sets us back because when you try to make these custom formulas, you're very limited on what you can use because you need a base that's going to allow you to like work with all sorts of things.
AF.
Exactly. And also your actives are very limited because a lot of like really good actives are usually not very easy to work with. They need a lot of help.
Customized formulas. Like formulas designed around the active, not the other way around.
Exactly. So I just, at this point in time, I say this doesn't help us progress in terms of formulation and that sort of R&D and technology.
Yep. But those companies be getting funded though, so congratulations, everyone.
No congratulations. Stop it.
But yeah, next, speaking of personalization. Sorry. Other than that, I found an article on makeup trends, which I find really funny.
Okay.
Because they say bold lips and bobs with bangs are back, baby. And I'm like,
like the dark red or
like bold lip color, like the purple,
glossy, matte.
I think we're still matte. So far, but bobs with bangs are back. I once upon a time had a bob with bangs.
Oh,
my college friend. Lenny, I'm talking about you, told me that I look like an Asian mom on her second child in the cusp of a divorce. So,
that is so specific.
The second part I might have added, but he was like, he took one look at me, he was like, oh my god, you look like my auntie. And after that, I no longer have a mom with bangs. But yes, apparently that's coming back.
Yes. I, time and time again, always think I should do bangs. And then time and time again realize they just get pinned up.
Yeah, so I had bangs about at this point 10 episodes ago. Yeah, and then it just starts growing out. Yeah, I had bangs and I just don't have the patience. So
we saw them for like 2
week?
weeks. It was like a zoo sighting. Like, oh my god, the panda's awake.
Yeah, and I actually trimmed it for those 2 weeks, and I realized that I remember again why I don't have bangs anymore is because I can't cut very straight. It's either too straight or not very straight, and it just it's time to be real. Also, straight hair is just very unforgiving. It is. You can really tell when things are uneven. And it's not cute. So I'm gonna figure out something else to do with my hair, but it's not gonna be bangs. All right. And what else we got? Yeah. So I going off of the trends article, I also found one. A lot of the personalization type of concept. Will also tout AI powered. Like they use the power of AI to crack the code to skincare. So I found an article that really exemplifies how we feel about it. It's like AI has revolutionized virtually every industry, not least of all beauty. Recently, a series of ingredient technologies have emerged based on AI-driven research. Go on. For instance, Ashland has launched its first biofunctional extract. I'm not going to give away extract yet. It says this ingredient is designed to offer well-aging benefits that help transform the skin's appearance from dull to glowing. It is said to reduce skin cell senescence and help mitigate air pollution-induced skin damage. Okay. It was clinically proven to encourage skin regeneration, firmness, and anti-wrinkle effects. it is sandalwood. it takes AI to tell you sandalwood is like good for our skin.
Wait, can we just be AI? I'm pretty sure we could do that.
I just told you that 3 sentences ago.
Sea berry.
A sea buckthorn. Yep. Anyway, I thought it was kind of funny. I fell for the clickbait, went to it, and after reading all that, I'm like, sandalwood.
I have to say, yeah, you definitely see that kind of lingo, especially with new brands. It's like, like compiling what we learned through AI and science. And
I sell you vitamin C.
Yeah, so I will say, I guess, how do we feel about using AI in skincare, Gloria?
I think it's an interesting concept. It's kind of like those at-home genetic tests. Nice idea, but I don't quite think the execution is there. And also, I think it's kind of going after a quick win of something. Like, time and time again, you'll hear us complain about how the data on a lot of ingredients aren't super robust. It's hard to compare ingredients head to head. You can't apply AI to data that doesn't exist. So put money towards actual ingredient research. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also think that it's really just like it's more a marketing claim than actual utilization. I'm sure if you I hate to say it, but if you talk to a chemist and you told them your brand angle, they could probably put together an actives compilation list for you. The other thing too is I kind of feel like it's misplaced the use of AI. Like the idea is that you can take a bunch of data points and then be able to come to a conclusion, and that's supposed to save you time, right? And so in my mind, I'm like, can we just do it more towards user and user data versus products and actives? I just don't think that's where AI should be placed. Yeah. Anyways, that's just my gripe. Anyways.
On a bit of good news, I do find this one very interesting. BASF, you guys probably aren't familiar with this company, but this is a very, very, very big ingredient supplier. And they don't just make products for personal care across all industries, but they paired up with a company called Natural Machines, and they are going to make customized 3D printed bio-based and biodegradable personal care masks. I think I don't really, because BASF isn't a consumer-facing skincare brand, so I'm not sure where and when this technology is going to become available for everyone, but I actually really like this concept.
Yeah, what do you feel like it solves?
My face doesn't fit any face mask. I think I have I don't even know, just when I always have to plan masking around when I wash my hair, because I don't want to wash my face after masking. Never thought about that. But it always drenches around my hairline. Yeah. So I have to do it if I'm just planning on having nasty hair for 24 hours.
Got it.
Yeah. So
I understand that.
Yeah, and also I think there's something to be said about getting the most out of it if it really evenly forms to your entire face. I'm sure there's I'm sure everyone's experienced the mask pocket. When it doesn't fit, you have pockets you have to keep pressing down to get the serum. So yeah.
No, I think that's a good point. Back in when I was working on sheet masks, that was one of our biggest issues was per different zones. There were different face shapes, and some of the face shapes would just be incredibly wrong, and it would make you feel it would make you feel so bad, because it's okay, for example, Asian faces, I hate to say it, but they think that smaller slits, fuller cheeks. So then suddenly when you pull it open, it's like this. And I'm
the mask was doing this number.
Exactly. I'm come on, man. That's not how big my face is, So I just feel I totally agree. It's really painful in terms of face shape. And also when you use those biocellulose masks, it is really important to have good contact with your skin. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and I'm really curious about which type of biodegradable material they use. I'm sure you guys have heard of a lot of sustainability movements in the industry. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what comes from this. So.
Yeah.
Cool. last but not least, in the news, we always have to share a new launch.
Hey.
So Rodan Fields has a new serum. It's called the Total RF Serum. It is said to, they use a lot of fancy words like, this antioxidant complex, it reduces the signs of wrinkle and like combats aging from all different angles. And the ingredient list goes something like water, dimethicone, isonanoisonanoate, glycerin, niacinamide, squalane, I just want to point out that niacinamide wasn't called out at all in the marketing description. So, there you go, your insurance policy ingredients sitting pretty there.
Yeah, if you haven't heard us talk about niacinamide before, we call it the jack of all trades. And before it got its own platform recently, you would see it in everything because that was their insurance policy and they would never talk about it. It just wasn't very fair to them, actually.
Yeah, and there's also an example of how and why you can accidentally overlayer niacinamide pretty easily. So even products that don't talk about it might have some of it. The actual active ingredients or that they talk about, there's like some peptide blend. There's an ingredient called rosmarinic acid rutin. These are like pretty well-known antioxidants in skin.
There's adenosine.
Yeah, so all in all, I don't know how I feel about this because it costs $175.
Woo.
Yeah, there is a clinical study, but it does seem like most of the results, it's not clear how they did the testing.
Okay.
So I didn't know how many people was in the study. Also, most of it was consumer perception. So it's like 83% agree that skin feels brighter or skin feels firmer. There's like a lingo that says like, 83% has reduced wrinkle, which suggests that there's some sort of clinical measurements, but that's not the type of metric that we are used to hearing. Usually if there's clinical assessment, you'll hear metrics like, on average, consumers reduce their wrinkles by 32%, right? But this is more like there's an interpretation. Yes, exactly. Right. There's like the way they worded for us seemed a little, maybe they over-flattered the results a little bit, or it's just really hard for us to tell.
I think there is one specific lingo that Gloria pointed out that the phrase they used was noticed. And if they use a word like that, like obviously that's consumer perception.
Right, exactly. They use like 84% notice brighter skin, something like that. And to us it's like, that's cool. Okay. Anyway, so that's the
awesome.
launch of the day.
All right, so I think that's the news.
That's the news. Ooh.
All right, it's time for the meat.
The meat.
So, yes, moisturizing, not the most glamorous or exciting of topics, but so important. And if you've been following us on Instagram, you probably noticed we started our Moisturizer 101 series. Well, colder days are ahead, which means that our skin's going to be more prone to dry skin. So before we do that, of course, we have to talk about some of the biology, just so you understand the importance of this topic. And then we'll go through some actual like moisturizer troubleshooting, what makes a good moisturizer, and so on and so forth. So first things first, one of the things that you need to know about your skin is that there are 4 specific systems in your skin that need to be functioning cohesively together in order to have healthy, hydrated skin. So that is proper NMF formation. Yes. So these are your natural moisturizing factors that include things like
urea, lactic acid, sodium PCA. They're basically humectants that's naturally produced in your skin to help grab water. In your skin, there's a water gradient. Basically, outer layers are fatty. The deeper layers are much more heavy in water, but there's like a natural gradient. So they exist on all surface levels to help maintain that gradient.
Yeah. And in fact, hyaluronic acid is one of those molecules that you constantly hear about. It also functions in the same way in terms of being that aqueous, solution that allows these like cells to communicate with each other. So it's very important with skin, in your skin. But the reason why it's not considered an NMF in skincare is because it doesn't actually penetrate down, especially because its molecular weight is so large. So hopefully that that kind of clears it up and creates some organization, right, Gloria?
Yes, I understand.
All right, so that's the first thing. Second is lipid processing. And what that means is your actual lipid organization, the actual structure and composition of those lipids all make for healthy skin.
Yeah, so this is where you might hear about the ratios, fatty acid, cholesterol, and ceramides. And when skin is healthy, it actually forms a crystalline matrix. So it has basically it kind of locks in together. So skin structure is very robust and it functions better that way. It can help you. Skin is actually more supple and it helps lock in water that much better.
Yep. And then the third is keratinocyte differentiation. That's your skin cells, just how they're organizing themselves and creating that structure that ultimately becomes this stratum corneum. And then finally, regular desquamation. And what does that mean, Gloria?
Desquamation is when your cells at the very upper layer of your stratum corneum says, I've had enough of your shit. I'm gonna go now. But yeah, actually, it's linked to keratinocyte differentiation. Your skin just naturally have a skin cycle. You're constantly getting new skin cells. It's just a continual differentiation process. Your skin cell starts from the bottom, gets pushed out, goes through a differentiation process, becomes, by the time it's at the outermost layer, when it becomes your stratum corneum, they're dead cells. They're mostly fatty dead cells.
Exactly.
And then after a while, the dead cells have served its purpose. It's time to move on.
Yeah, and that healthy turnover contributes to healthy skin. So all these four things that we just mentioned, they all need to be functioning well. They all need to be functioning together, and that's ultimately what contributes to non-dry skin. And that's why, even though people think, oh, dry skin, just put a lotion on it, it's so simple, but it's actually really not. And the problem with that is that when you start experiencing dry skin, it just invites a whole host of problems. And so one of the things, before we kind of get into all those problems, we should first define what is dry skin. And dry skin is essentially just water loss.
Yeah.
Oh,
your skin's main job is to keep the bad guys out and your water inside. And dry skin usually starts when your tool or transepidermal water loss is a lot faster than usual. Your skin is just not doing a very good job in terms of keeping water in. That's usually symptom number one, and the symptom becomes a bit of a disease.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah. So, and on top of that environment, in research, you'll see that environment does play a very big factor, and it kind of aggravates that water evaporation. And when you have that lack of water, your skin kind of starts freaking out because it doesn't have water to produce those NMFs, those important molecules that you need. It also cannot do its proper skin shedding. And when that happens, then all of a sudden, poof, your stratum corneum is very unhappy. And what they found was your skin tries to fix itself, but when it fixes itself, it's not really in the best way. And what happens is your keratinocytes, as they are organizing and they are multiplying, they start multiplying in a disorganized manner. Which sets yourself up for a kind of dysfunctional and unorganized stratum corneum, and then you can't shed your skin cells in that healthy manner.
Yeah. Fun fact, some of the active ingredient studies will look at skin cutouts, and what they do is they apply it, and then they take microscope images of it to see that organization, because organized skin equals healthier skin and more hydrated skin.
Yeah. And when, we always talk about AHAs and how they're so important for, they help with prevention of wrinkles, they help tackle, in some ways, hyperpigmentation. But the core of what it does is actually help you get that, exactly, and promote and continue that hydrated skin, which a lot of people don't realize because they think that when you're shedding skin, it can cause dryness, so that could aggravate dry skin. But no, that's actually not the case.
Yeah, and actually this is kind of how we created baby steps.
Yeah.
Lactic acid at low levels function as an NMF. You do naturally have lactic acid in your skin. So it's a hydrating ingredient at low levels. And then at slightly higher levels, it can help gently exfoliate skin. And at really high levels, which is, you could peel your skin.
Yeah.
But again, this kind of goes with the concept of it's A, finding the right molecule, and then B, finding the right concentration for your skin condition.
Yeah. And we're jumping ahead a little bit, but just on that note, this is the reason why you might see that lotions that are catered towards seniors usually come with lactic acid or urea, because that's the whole goal, is to help them shed those skin cells in a healthy way. All right. So with that, so now you understand kind of the impacts of dry skin. Also, there's some weird facts I kind of stumbled on just to kind of as I was giving myself a refresher on dry skin. So one of the things that's a not so fun fact is that dry skin coupled with inflammation can and has a tendency to lead to a more chronic issue of eczema. So if the idea is that, it's dry skin is kind of a catalyst. And so it is important to try to tackle that first. And I think that's something that we try to warn people about, is that if you are experiencing dry skin, let's focus on that first before tackling all the other skin concerns.
Yeah, a lot of active ingredients, we just talked about, both acne and hyperpigmentation. Especially with hyperpigmentation, just it's time to focus on skin barrier. We always say focus on skin barrier before you think about those other things. Yep,
exactly. And then one of the other things that I found was interesting was that skin that has a more curved radius, they found to be more prone to dry skin.
Not my chipmunks, the cheeks.
Yeah. So this is why dryness on the cheek area is just that stretched surface area. More prone to water loss. And then I was kind of thinking about butt cheeks. But
some are more curved than others.
Yeah.
But
and then nose, obviously, that's a big area. The other thing that they've also looked at is ethnicity. Are certain ethnic groups more prone to dry skin? Turns out that's not really a factor. It's really location and geography. Very dry climates, definitely more prone to dry skin, which seems very obvious. And then finally, they've also looked at the impact of dry skin on infants and how that impacts them in the future. They've actually found that those infants that deal with eczema or struggle with that and dry skin, they are more prone to things like food allergies, seasonal allergies, and even asthma.
Wow.
So there's, even though it's not that glamorous, they definitely see it as a root problem, and just know that there's still a lot of research done to really understand and really try to prevent this even at a very, very young age. So, all right.
So that was a little bit about the biology of dry skin. We're going to go over products and how to choose a moisturizer next. But before we do, we're going to take a mini break with our Claims Corner.
Yay, Claims Corner.
We're so happy that this segment is, I think it's a fan favorite, and we have submissions by you guys as well.
Yeah.
So she sent this product to us. This is submitted to us by our friend at Cutie Skira. She sent this product to us. It is called Forest Lungs.
Oh boy.
This is a unisex anti-stress fragrance supplement that delivers the healing effect of nature on the body by using olfactory chemistry and patented technology to bring the outside in. 96% felt less stressed after using Forest Lungs, in all caps. Woody and smoky, with cling resin and tart citrus notes. Vetiver, I never say that right, cedarwood, benzoin, pine, patchouli, and bergamot.
I have so many questions.
It is, so it's a typical fragrance mix.
What is a fragrance supplement?
So I think it's just a fragrance,
Okay.
a patented blend, which honestly most fragrance blends are proprietary, so whether or not it's patented is kind of whatever, but cool. interestingly, they did a consumer perception study. So this is created by world-renowned perfumer. I do not know how to pronounce his name.
Guillaume Flavigne. Wow, Flavigne just sounds like flavonoid. Sorry.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, it is a sensory supplement designed to support the reduction of everyday stress. 96% felt less stressed within 30 minutes of using Forest lungs. 92%, oh my god. 92% felt calmer within 30 minutes of using Forest lungs.
Okay.
And then 87% felt that their everyday stress levels were lower after using Forest lungs for 30 days.
Wow.
And 91% felt their anxiety levels were reduced by using Forest lungs for 30 days.
Wow. All right.
Interesting. Oh, they didn't say how many number of people this is done on.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but they also have a dosing.
Uh-huh.
And they says dose is 2+ sprays.
Oh,
so
man.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so it says friends plus enemies for full body stress support. Try pairing with mood.
No.
So, anyway, how do you feel about this, Victoria?
Well, okay. To be fair, olfactory is a mystical world.
Yes.
There's a lot of research actually done. That's why lavender, when they
aromatherapy is a thing.
Yes,
for sure.
and there are studies that do say that, you know, when you have that lavender aroma, you know, it can be very powerful, things like that. So in that sense, don't discredit that. I just want to know what a fragrance supplement is. Is this a new thing about fragrance? Like, it's the do more of fragrance?
Yes, fragrance so good that it goes beyond smelling nice.
Yeah.
It lifts your mood.
I guess that's the new trend. The other thing I don't know what it means is to bring the outside in gives me a lot of anxiety because I have really bad allergies, like seasonal allergies. So when I hear that, I'm like, that's not what I want, but I understand the visual they're trying to create. I don't know. It's very mysterious to me. Very mysterious.
Yes. Victoria's outdoors grassy things allergy is so bad that we have been on a extra like shrubby hike where like all the plants are like waist high and it's not very trim. I've witnessed her dive headfirst into the ocean to relieve her skin after that hike. So
it's very true.
The plantiness does not appeal to Victoria. I mean, for me, like, I think it's been like multiple decades where people have talked about like going to nature, like smelling the whatever like forest smells is actually really good for me.
Maybe not with Gloria's marketing skills.
Yes, no. Clearly I'm not selling people on forest stuff, but it's a thing, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, out of all the things we kind of joked about in the claims corner, it doesn't really offend me that much because at the end of the day, it is a fragrance that's $30. So
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really hurt to try. And at the end of the day, if it's a nice fragrance, it's a nice fragrance, you know. I think aromatherapy is one of those like kind of ritual things where I'm like, you know
Me
what?
time moments.
Yeah, like if it doesn't have actual super medical benefits as some brands try to claim, it doesn't hurt, you know. Who doesn't like smelling nice?
I have to be honest, when it comes to fragrance, the lingo can get really weird.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at any of the high-end brand like fragrance commercials, do any of them make sense to you? Like, do you remember the one with Kristen Stewart where she's just like gallivanting around the room? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know, but yes, I also think that the whole forest in out and the supplement lingo is all very confusing.
Yeah, I think it's a very creative spin. But like Victoria said, if you think about traditional fragrance, everyone's trying to sell you a feeling. Think about like the Natalie Portman commercials where she's just like,
Dior.
Oh, Dior Cherie. And then the J'adore with the, you know, like everything. Yeah, they're all selling you a feeling. So this is also selling you a feeling. And the feeling is forest. So.
But I will say props to them for doing a clinical on a fragrance.
Yeah.
Like, I think that actually is the one point where I don't really have a lot of expectations for that, but good for them. They made them use it for 30 days.
Yes. And also, I'm not accusing them of doing this. I'm just saying if it's up to me and I want to create a fragrance with claims, I'm like, come in and try this fragrance. We'll give you a massage. And you tell me if you feel less stressed or not.
That's so true. That's so true.
Totally the fragrance though, right? But anyway, actually that blend is also kind of massage oily.
Yeah.
Like woodsy with patchouli and bergamot.
Yep, that'll do it.
I get a massage with that.
Yeah. So if you've tried this fragrance supplement and want to give it a yay or nay, let us know.
Let us know. Ultimately, honestly, it's kind of creative and I'm not very offended by it.
Thanks, Cutie Cara, for sending this our way. If you guys see any more eyebrow-raising worthy products, definitely send them our way. We find a lot of enjoyment that also people are catching on to.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So we're going
to
get back into the meat, and now it's time to actually talk moisturizer. So when I was doing this research and kind of getting an update, this one review paper I think summed it up really nicely in what you should look for in a moisturizer. They talk about non-physiological and physiological lipids. What that means is actually occlusive material, and then also your ceramides, fatty acids, and cholesterol.
So they're referring to like your skin identical, like ceramides and whatnot, as physiological lipids.
Yeah. And then your humectants. They call it antipruritic, which means anti-itch, and soothing agents. And then also your epidermal differentiation ingredients. So that's your keratolytics, your AHAs, things like that. So I thought that summed it up really nicely. And what I think the first things first is we have to talk about the actual basics of a moisturizer.
Yep, we're here to talk to you about your HEO ratio.
And no, it's not cult lingo, I promise. It's just the easiest way for us to talk about this.
Story time. Victoria and I have a book out called Skincare Decoded. When we were writing the book, in the moisturizer chapter, we're like, we are going to show everyone the HEO ratios. So the H is your water stuff, your humectants. E is emollients. It's smooth skin. It's typically your light oils. And then occlusives are the waxes and butters that seal that moisture in. We're like, genius. We're going to make a bunch of bars so people understand that different... there can be 10,000 products that claim moisturizing, but they all have different ratios. That's the key. Awesome. We have been through so many iterations when we're writing the book, when we were calling, because our editors and designers, bless their souls, they're not really in this industry, so they're like, you want what? We're like, we want the blue bar to be just a little bit thicker. Oh my God.
They had no idea what we were talking about. We're like, for example, we talked about like toners and serums, and we're like, we just want a blue bar. Blue bar.
It's all humectant blue.
And then the next one be completely different color and chopped up in different colors. Oh, that was quite painful for everyone.
It was. And they were just like looking at us like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. But hopefully with this video, you guys will know what we're talking about. So, speaking of ratios, what does that all mean, Gloria?
Yeah, so everyone's skin has kind of their golden ratio. A great example to highlight is maybe think about your day lotion and your night cream. So your day lotion tends to be more humectant heavy. So your thin, maybe there's like 15% oil, just an example, and only 1 to 2% occlusive. And the bulk of it is water and water-loving ingredients like glycerin, your NMFs, hyaluronic acid, and whatnot, and those tend to have fresher textures in general. Good, generally speaking, good for layering, but they won't help as much as sealing the moisture in. And night creams, typically speaking, will be formulated with way higher oil and occlusives content, but they might be lacking water-grabbing goodies, which means if you're very, very dry like me, you might want to layer. So that's kind of what we mean by different product ratios.
And just to take one step back, the reason why we find it easier to think this way is because when you take a look at the moisturizers on the market, you have no idea how to go about shopping for a product because, newsflash, there's no guideline, there's no rule book that teaches that, creates any sort of rules for formulating for, let's say, a dry skin person versus an oily skin person. So what that means is every brand just comes up with their own idea and interpretation of what that means. So brand A might skew a little more dry. You might find that their line is more dry even for oily skin, and then brand B is more skewed for oily skin. So it's incredibly confusing. If you buy an oily skin product in one category and then go to the next one, you might find it doesn't really work.
Yeah, and I really want to share a story of before I started working as a chemist, before I knew anything about skin science, that exact same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I was in college because I've always had dry skin. In college, I really noticed that just it's becoming extra dry, and my moisturizer, my standard Aveeno bottle is just not really cutting it anymore. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm gonna splurge. I'm gonna eat ramen for a week, and then I'm gonna go buy some high-end moisturizer because that's what I thought I needed. And I went to a Shu Uemura counter because obviously they know Asian skin. And I remember this lady at that time, they've launched a new essence, and they're like, oh yeah, no, this is great for your age bracket. This is super duper hydrating. And I was like, wow, it is $65. And I'm like, yes, and you pair it with this cream and your skin will be so dewy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm poor. I only got the budget for one of these two $65 products. And they're like, oh, you should buy the essence.
Yeah.
So I bought the essence, and then the lady, of course, was like, oh yeah, super hydrating. You just use this. Awesome. No one told me that it is only humectant because it is an essence. So then I was like applying it and going out into Ithaca winter where it's 15 degrees outside and windy. I'm like, why am I so dry?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the same thing for La Mer. La Mer, they use mineral oil, and you think that to use the best unlocks your code, right? Your moisturization code. And I mean, I would go into my mom's vanity table and steal a little bit and try to pat it, but it's so oily for me.
Very, very occlusive.
Yeah, so hopefully thinking in this manner, in this whole HEO ratio, you guys can, the goal is to look at the product ingredient list and get a sense of, this seems to be more well balanced between the three categories. This seems to be more water heavy. This seems to be more oil heavy. If you can even get that sense, you will save yourself a lot of dollars wasted on products that
and we always say that this is a little bit of a trial and error. There's two ways to approach it. You want to try your base level. This ratio seems to do pretty well for me. So actually, question. I'm someone that don't really have a morning moisturizer versus a night moisturizer.
I'm not the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with having one for the morning, one for the night. But at the same time, if nothing else, you just need that one starting point that seems to cover your hydration throughout the day pretty well and do okay through the night as well. And then you try to jazz up from that starting point.
Yes, exactly. Having that foundation, that starting product, and building off of that, I think is the best way to go. And we also really try to convince you not to nuke your entire moisturizer routine, because there's a lot of history there that'll tell you of what maybe didn't work or what you might need less of or more of. So that's all data, good data to work off of, and make those tweaks. So yeah, I think with that kind of background, we can kind of do a little bit of troubleshooting actually in terms of moisturizers. So basically what happens with a moisturizer is that your skin's always changing, which means that you're going to have a constant working relationship with your moisturizer. People don't realize that. They think that, once I found my one, then you're
holy grail and done. And it doesn't really work with skincare.
Exactly. So I think as an exercise, we want to explain that as you go into drier weather, you might realize that your current moisturizer isn't doing enough for you. So Gloria, what would be those ways and steps to help tweak that?
If you're very dry, step one is just to lather occlusive over your skin, especially at night. It doesn't solve all your moisturizing needs, but to basically just embalm yourself, it will help solve really drastic dryness pretty quickly. So that's step one. Honestly, with dry skin, it's just good to find good pieces to layer with. Let's say you are maybe more combo rather than dry, and you don't want to jump into a heavier balm. Mix in a little bit oil, just add a little bit nourishment, more emollient to it to help seal in the moisture. These two tactics is usually good enough, especially if your starting point is a lighter lotion. Let's say you're doing a cream and you're just feeling like, oh, like my skin still feels really parched midday. Then you go the other way, instead of layering more balm, more oil on top of your already pretty occlusive heavy cream, you go under, because sometimes creams, it's so
occlusive
heavy that we found cream formulas where there is zero humectants. There is water, but there's no water grabbing things. That's when you reach for that hydrating product, that the hydrating serum with maybe B5 hyaluronic acid to put under your cream.
Exactly. And I think the thought process is, if you are trying to troubleshoot, the first thing you want to do is just assess your moisturizing history. Once you get a sense of what that looks like, then you know like how to build upon it. So you need a base starting point. And the second thing is, just ask yourself, do you think you need less or do you think you need more? And for winter, as Gloria mentioned, like what tends to happen is when you use a cream, we've actually found that a lot of people tend to forget about the water stuff. But for someone like me who has oily skin, who might be used to a more water heavy routine, I'll actually need to add in a little bit of the emollients. So that's, hopefully that gives you a few examples of how we'd go about it. And then, there is also a category of people that we've found, and it's the I'm still lost and I've been going at it for a while and have no idea what to do. So in this sense, what we recommend is just establish a starting point. It might not be enough, but it's a decent starting point. So if you can get like maybe a light lotion, a gel cream, something that you feel like, okay, I'm hydrated maybe for about 4 to 6 hours, or seems to be doing enough, but by the time I'm end of day, it still might not be enough for me. At least that's a starting point to work off of, and then you can add in that layer. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the thought process of how to think about your moisturizers and how to shop for one.
And just hang there, be a little patient. The reality is, how is my skin moisturized enough? It can be a bit of a feeling that you're searching for. I mean, not everyone can sit around and measure like the water content of your skin every like 2 hours to assess. So I almost feel like moisturizer hunting is like dating. A lot of moisturizers are probably good enough, but when you find the one, you're like, this moisturizer speaketh to my strand cornea.
Yes,
that's my latest theory.
Yeah, there's a general pool that you're like, okay, I can go on date 2 or 3 with.
Yeah. So when I was moisturizer hunting, I tried a bunch of the classic, like there are ones that all the cult favorite ones I've tried. There's ones that really don't work for me. So for me, Clinique Moisture Surge was like,
that I can agree with. It's very filmy.
It is, and it doesn't absorb very well on my skin. So for
that's
me,
the Clinique dramatically different moisturizing lotion.
They have a pink one.
That's the Moisture Surge.
Yes, the Moisture Surge. So that one, I was like, we are not going on a second date. Instant breakup. The DDM, the dramatically different, I've also tried. That one is like, all right, I'll entertain a second date. It works, but the texture wasn't quite for me. As Victoria mentioned, that one's filmy. So I was like, it does its job, but do I want to see it again in 2 months? So I've done the whole circuit. So like, you're not alone. And right now, honestly, working in the industry is really awesome in that sense, because I've tried every formula on the market and not, like, all over the place to find what I like. And I will say the funniest experience I had was Kiehl's their Ultra Facial Cream. That one is one where you're like, I think I like you enough to keep dating you, but if I'm walking down the aisle and I see you, all of a sudden I'm like, I think I can do better.
I think that's a great way of putting it. it's like
it does a job, but
it's got the fundamentals. So you're like, I can get through 30 years and not have to worry about maybe like, I don't know, you gambling away all my financials. Like,
yeah.
like it's stable, but
I can also
something miss. It's just like, I think what it is, it's like it feels a little vanilla for the price point.
Yes, exactly.
So that's why you're like, I'm still curious because it's a little expensive.
If you make me want to feel like I may want to try dating other people, not the Holy Grail moisturizer for me.
Yeah, I think the other one that's kind of in that category. No, actually not in that category, but it's on the same level. Is the Philosophy. They had a jar.
I
don't remember.
Miracle
yes.
something.
And it's like it's kind of shiny.
Yes.
Right. It's got a gloss to it. That one, the texture is so weird that you're like, oh, this is really like interesting. You know, it's like spicy, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll never be bored. But you're just like, also a classic moisturizer might be okay. You know, it's kind of the opposite situation.
One day I wake up, I'm like, I don't want to date a rock star. I want to come home to someone that I know will have a job.
Yeah. That will cook me a meal.
Best analogy ever.
Yeah, so anyways, if you want to spice it up for yourself, think about your moisturizer relationships.
Oh my God, that's why we name Mr. Reliable Mr. Reliable. And come home, he brings some the bacon. He's fine.
Yeah, actually, okay, since we are doing this, can we just talk about why we launched moisturizers first?
Yes, so us as not marketers, we're like,
no, we're not.
You know what? We really think moisturizers deserve a spotlight, and people are lost. So exactly as we just talked about, humectants, emollients, occlusive, at the time we're starting Chemist Confessions, I don't even think those are lingo that's on a lot of people's minds.
Not at all.
It's like much more common now.
Yeah.
But at that time we're like, you know what? We're gonna be geniuses. We are gonna take the best-in-class humectant, best-in-class emollients, and occlusives and make 3 separate products, and that became Aquafix, Better Oil, and Bon Voyage. We're gonna jack them up with soothing steroids, so basically a bunch of soothing ingredients. So then everyone, regardless of where they are in their moisturizer journey, can have meaningful layering pieces.
Yep, they're your tools.
Yeah, exactly. If you're missing emollients,
we got you.
You got the oil. If you're missing humectants, we got you.
You
know, so on and so forth. And after we made these 3 products, we're like, I bet people are gonna be like, where's my lotion?
It's so true. We had those 3 and we're looking at this, we're like, yeah, but at the end of the day, someone's still lost.
Someone just won and done.
A base.
Yeah.
And that's Mr. Reliable was born, right?
Yeah. And we had a naming party for all of these products.
Yeah.
And Victoria almost murdered me that day because I'm sitting there like, Moist Maker.
McCreamy.
McCreamy
was real.
Vetoed. Those names got vetoed. So
yeah, and joke's on us because when we launched it, it didn't do as well as we hoped, just because moisturizers just truly are not that glamorous.
We got a lot of questions like, wow, that's really cool. Is it anti-aging? We're like, whoa, but moisturizing is step 1.
Most important first. Launch most important first. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
But now I think people are starting to appreciate it.
Yes.
So that makes us happy. Anyways, that's a little side story for you guys. All right. And then the last couple of things I did want to talk about was ceramides.
Yes.
It doesn't really follow the HEO ratio, but it is an important component that can be very helpful for you.
Yeah, ceramides is a really huge topic. I think a lot of people, it just really caught on, which is great. And maybe partially thanks to CeraVe, or the skincare addiction. But ceramides are essentially a natural part of your skin barrier.
Yeah.
There's a ton of different types of ceramides.
Yes.
They usually different by shape and size. Mm-hmm. And ceramides is considered the backbone to your lipid matrix. Mm-hmm. So the thought process is that if you apply the lipid components, if you apply ceramides on your skin, they might be incorporated into your lipid matrix and help repair your skin barrier. That's not quite necessarily how it works. It's kind of hard to tell, like, a lot of papers will say that it isn't incorporated into your skin like that.
Yes.
Yet it does show skin barrier improvement.
Yeah, and it's even helpful for those who deal with eczema.
Yeah, they've tested a lot of ceramide cream on all sorts of skin barrier disease.
Yes.
Eczema, psoriasis, severe dry skin. You named it, they've tested ceramides for it. If you have dabbled in skin science websites, you will hear about the great ceramide ratio debate. So, other than ceramides, the 3 core lipid components of your skin are fatty acids and cholesterol.
Yes.
And you'll hear about, are you the 242 or are you the 311? Which team are you on? Yeah. Come on, Victoria, you gotta pick a side.
Yep, they're all touting their new numbers, and so with that, if you start getting confused and you start feeling like you're honing in on this ratio, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
Let's dial it back, because at the end of the day, there's not enough data to support one ratio over the other. Also, they tend to be more expensive. And really, just being able to even incorporate a little ceramide can be helpful enough.
Yeah, that's a great point. Part of the big debate comes from a few papers that's out there that talks about either, which is your natural skin ratio, or how do your skin lipid deplete as you age? How do you replenish that? What's that like match-up ratio?
Yeah.
It's a little much, because the reality is, the 242 is the skin pseudocol ratio in the triple lipid. It's tested. It has an amazing clinical. The 311 is tested by, is it Epion's?
Epion's.
Yeah. And they're both tested. They both work.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think also, like, if you're one of those people that are like, but the paper says, you're also forgetting that there are all sorts of ceramides too. Like, you're looking at the rational quantity of ceramides, but you're not even looking at the type, really. And so, like, and even to be able to do that and incorporate into skincare is so expensive. So that's why, like, we, if you use triple lipid and are doing great with it, awesome.
Yeah.
But don't feel like you have to, like, really hone in on this number to unlock your moisturizer code.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to also point out that, as all things science, it's also a learning progress. We're still seeing new papers testing ceramides in different capacities every year.
Yep.
There was a Korean study I found that came out just earlier this year, that didn't tell me how much ceramide was in it, but there was actually just one type, ceramide MP or ceramide 3. This one tested damaged forearm versus placebo for just 7 days, but it showed that the non-placebo cream that had the ceramide was able to dramatically and significantly reduce tool. So yeah, again, multiple different types of ceramides at different ratios, or just by itself has shown improvement. So it's an ingredient to look out for, but don't go too nuts with the ratio.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then speaking of ingredients, to kind of wrap this up, I do want to talk about a few ingredients you'll hear about and kind of have that buzz, and just our kind of quick 2 cents on all of them. I think the first one we have to talk about is hyaluronic acid. It's definitely one that we would say just gets way too much fame. We see this as a humectant. We see this as a comparison to good old glycerin. And that's it. If you want to go into small molecular weight hyaluronic acid, the verdict's still out, and also there's all sorts of ways you can manipulate the small molecular weight HA. So with that, it's really dependent on the molecule and for its anti-aging benefits. So hopefully that clears the space.
I think for me, HA is great, but I would never use a product that only has HA.
Is just a serum. Yep, I totally agree. Also, that's really boring, because I guess we could also get into this maybe in a blog post, but it's actually a lot better to have a blend of humectants at different molecular weights. It's, again, the shotgun cocktail approach. You kind of give your skin a little bit of everything is a lot more helpful than just one singular active. Also, money-wise.
By the way, kind sirs out there doing quote-unquote AI skincare, why don't you go crack the code on what is the best humectant? Because, again, everything's a humectant, but there's zero comparative data, so go busy yourself with that.
I just feel like we're just like, AI people, who are you? Who are you?
Find
what are you
me
doing?
actual useful data, and stop telling me that after years of, like, AI study and vitamin C. Anyway.
Yep, so true. Second ingredient, snail mucin.
Cool beans. So again, also a humectant. It's got the slimy stuff. It's got some HA. It's got low levels of glycolic, but we're talking about low levels. It won't exfoliate your skin much. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, we think it's fine. It's not necessary. I might have a tiny bit of, vitamins, like little, and as Gloria said, glycolic, just tiny amounts, like kind of a nice, it's not even secondary, just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's nice. It's okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's snail mucin. Think of it as a humectant.
So for our new fans, we talked about how snail mucin was extracted.
Oh, right.
There is a hilarious video on YouTube, link here. They talk about how traditional ways to extract snail mucin, it's like a Monsters, Inc. story. They used to scare the snails and they're and then excrete the snail mucin. And then people are like, you know what? That's not very nice. Why don't we try making them very happy? So they put them in snail spas.
Happy.
Victoria went there. Show snail mucin a good time.
Yeah.
And then they're like, and
they're like, my dog is making an appearance. She's done with moisturizer.
Yes. So then they realize happy snails excrete more mucin than scared snails. So yes, there you go. Real life Monsters, Inc. story.
Yeah,
and Maisie is saying, cool story, bro. Wrap your shit up.
Yeah, so that's fun fact. Definitely we will include the YouTube link below. And then also I think another one is just honey. Anything honey.
A humectant.
Yep. They all just sound nice. Think of them as just like things to market with.
I mean, and anything is hydrating, right? You'll hear about like a lot of like, let's say cactus extract, aloe vera, sea stuff, a lot of algae things, a lot of slimy things. None of them are bad ideas, but
that's why chemists don't market anything.
My kelp is better than your kelp. None of it doesn't hurt to have them.
Yeah.
There's zero. I wish we can tell you that this is the best humectant. Nothing compares them to each other.
Yeah.
Glycerin is a gold standard. Use a blend of it. The end. That's the takeaway.
Yeah. And then finally, plant butters, plant waxes. We've seen a couple people feel like they need to switch because petrolatum has been smeared and dragged through the mud. But at the end of the day, I just want to show you that petrolatum is still also the gold standard occlusive. And at the end of the day, when nothing else will work, you're going to get petrolatum. So don't feel the need to use jojoba, 100% raw shea, coconut oil. Oh my gosh, please, for oily skin, acneic skin, definitely don't recommend that.
And that's like going the other way.
Yeah.
Too, is when especially coconut oil and jojoba oil, when those stuff are all the rage, a lot of people will end up only using this to moisturize. And going back to our HEO discussion, it's a very limited way to moisturize. You're not
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right, Grandpa, wheel you the other way. Alrighty then. Oh, I will say though, of all the planty butters, I actually like certain cocoa butters. They have a really cool skin feel. But again, with all things plants, sourcing is a thing. Like a lot of consumers, shea butter might just be shea butter, but there's actually shea can be.
It can be manipulated into so many things. Yeah. It's actually really cool.
Yeah.
But for some reason, people just want like 100% raw, unrefined, like just smashed shea, like in a bucket, and we're like, that's not the purpose of that.
Again, if you're dating this person, do you want it to come in with a loincloth or at least a suit and shaved? You know? So.
Oh, God. I mean, let's be fair. Some people want the loincloth.
It depends on what's under.
All right, we're moving on. And that's moisturizing.
Yo, this episode was a lot more fun than I thought.
Oh, God. All right, it's time
to break it up, break it up, break it up.
All right.
And it's Animal Fun Fact Corner.
Woo-hoo.
So, I really just want to say that I am so glad that this Animal Fun Fact Corner has been a cornerstone to our podcast. And if you missed it, I think it was last episode, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago. We talked about the beaver.
Yes.
And
can I tell the story?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we talked about the beaver, and then remember how Gloria in the previous video was like, ew, beavers. Okay. And then I was like, wait, but look, there's this video, I think it was on like LED
Dodo.
Dodo, yeah. And talked about a lady who actually took in and
them.
rescued a beaver. Mm-hmm. So we're like watching it, we're like, oh, it's so funny. Look at it trying to like build this little dam in the house.
Destroy the house.
Yeah. It's like taking everything and like pushing it up onto a corner and creating a dam. And we're like, oh, that's adorable. And then cut to the beaver like eating,
Sweet
and
potato.
yeah, the lady, she was like explaining, she's like, he does this really cute thing. He eats a sweet potato and he spins it
in a circle.
And we just want to remind you that many episodes ago, I had noticed this observation about Gloria, and that when she eats her sandwich, she spins it and eats the corners, so like a disc.
Making my own Uncrustable.
So now we know that's where Gloria got it from.
I eat my sandwiches like beavers.
Anyway, so fun fact.
Yeah.
What's today's animal, Gloria?
Today's animal is not as cute as the beaver.
All
We're
right.
talking about sea hares, as in sea rabbits, as in a giant sea slug.
That changed drastically.
Yeah, so I actually like randomly found a clip of it. I don't know why it was recommended to me. Maybe YouTube's listening to our Animal Fun Fact Corner. But it was just like, look at this beastly like thing. So it was like literally this giant slimy thing, like rubbing itself against a rock.
Oh.
So it turned out that was a black California sea hare.
Okay.
Those things can weigh up to like 15 pounds. They're very, very, very big.
That's bigger than a baby.
Yes. It's a two-handed
Girthy
operation.
thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is very slimy, but I picked it because there's a lot of species out there. They're adorable. They just eat little plants. They're there to eat algae, and they actually like have tentacles to hold the algae, and blah, blah, blah. And that's how they live. They're kind of slow moving. There's not a lot of defense mechanism, and a lot of species of them, including the brown one. There's some spotted ones. What they do is they ink like octopus, but instead of like a black ink, they shoot out bright purple, pink ink.
Oh.
It's like a bachelorette party. It's like,
whoa, I don't know what kind of bachelor party you've been to.
Oh, Barney farts. I don't know. It just poof,
so it's worse than octopus.
Oh yeah, and it's not lightly. It's not like if you squint, it looks a little purple. It's bright purple. It's like neon purple pink.
So it just doesn't look natural.
No, it looked highly toxic, which it turned out that it is slightly toxic to its main prey, which is the lobster. So it actually functions in a lot of different ways all at the same time.
I don't know why, but this is dumb, but I never realized that lobster even eat things. I just never even registered that like they need to eat.
What do you think?
Lobsters I really feel like I have never thought about this.
I just guess. But have you thought about what they eat? Do you not care?
I have not. I'm sorry. But now I know.
That's one of the things that lobsters eat.
Okay.
So when the lobster latch onto it, it's not fast enough. It can't get away.
Okay.
It shoots out this ink.
Okay.
And one, it's like, oh my god, it's pink. It's very distracting. And then two is there's
ooh, confetti.
Yeah. Ooh. And then too, it actually has a taste to it because it's like got like light amino acids. So the lobsters are, it tastes kind of good. And then 3, if that's still not enough time for the thing to get away, with the ink, it also secretes this extra gooey slime. And it's the lobster, next thing we'll know, get a mouthful of it. It was like,
oh, it doesn't taste good.
It's not that it doesn't taste good, it's just there's a lot of
slime.
So it's like,
it all sounds so attractive.
Giving it time to get away.
Well, because it's a slug, like, how much time does it need to get away?
A long. Remember?
Does it, like, detach and then kind of just like.
Oh, no. It's like Monsters University. The slug that's like. It's pretty much what it's happening.
Watch that movie today.
And the last fact I have for everyone about this is it's of course we talk about how it reproduces. It's a hermaphrodite. So sometimes they can create mating chains because they can couple in a couple different directions. So sometimes you can find a string of 20 of them.
That's too much of a party for me.
And producing pink ink and purple ink.
Purple ink that tastes delicious.
And delicious to lobsters, at least. So there you go.
Oh.
That's the sea hare.
Who knew the sea hare had so much fun?
Yes. Alright guys, it is time to wrap this up.
I just realized we really know how to dish out facts that no one asked for.
We made a clip of our claims corner last time about how no one asked that term whether we should skincare before or after sex, but then we willfully ignored the fact that no one asked us for sea hare facts and their coupling chains.
To be fair, it was either this or the Russian olive tree.
We'll get there. You know what?
It wasn't a good week.
The animal corner is gonna branch out into the plant kingdom, so there you go.
All right, we're ready to wrap this up with some final Q&A.
Yes.
What is our first question?
We got the same email. This person asked, what is the relationship between product concentrations versus how much you apply versus how frequently you apply a product? And then she used an example based on our content.
You know, before we answer this question, I feel like this is definitely the product of transparent percentages. It's like this is bound to cause that kind of confusion. So I'm really glad she asked this.
So the specific example she chose to ask is the difference between applying 20% azelaic acid once a day versus 10% azelaic acid twice a day.
Yeah. So first off, whenever we give any sort of advice or data, it's really based on research and testing that has been done previously. And all that data is based on 20% azelaic acid used 1 to even 2 times a day.
Yes.
And so that's what we base it off of. In terms of 10%, what we've seen is that using 10%, it just doesn't have that same robust data and proof that it can get you those benefits of tackling hyperpigmentation and even acne. And so that's why for us, when we wrote about azelaic acid, we say 10% azelaic acid, incorporating that is great. You can use it both day and night, but we still see that as secondary to other actives. Yeah. I don't know, Gloria, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I actually responded to this email using a different example. It's a great question overall. Not every skincare active is well studied in that different concentration bracket. One of the other examples that's really well studied is acids. So your AHAs like glycolic and lactic, there are studies that use 2 to 5 to 8%. Like say nightly. Sometimes there are studies that use that type of concentration almost twice a day as well. But it's not a cumulative effect. When you want to use it as a peel, like to get that really really visible result, let's say if you use 10% glycolic acid twice a day, it's not the same thing as using a 20% glycolic acid peel at all. That's not how that works. So again, high concentration has its unique place.
Yes.
How it's used. It's not replaced by using lower that's why azelaic acid is a tough topic for us, because you can say, oh, I'm using 10% twice a day. It's about the same, right?
Yeah.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't add up like that.
Yeah, and I think the AHA one is such a good point. And it's also just like, and I think people also forget just how difficult it is to have these actives penetrate, and they don't realize that a lot of studies that use actives, they really are using it twice a day, every day, for 8 weeks, 12 weeks. So that's why I think she highlighted very well is like, not only is concentration important, but diligence, repetition, that all matters. But yeah, great question.
Great question.
And this was actually a YouTube question that we got. Someone asked us to just briefly talk about HPR, Grand Active Retinoid. That's the hydroxypinocolate retinoid ingredient. And we had kind of talked about retinoids in general. This is a new kid on the block, so they just want to know, where does it stand in this whole retinoid world?
It's all right. It is a molecule created by a supplier called Grand Industries. Mm-hmm. They've done some studies around this molecule to validate that. I mean, for any derivative, the goal is to always make it A, more stable, and B, less irritating, while retaining the same efficacy.
Yes.
I think the last time I tried to look at an update on this molecule was about half a year ago or so. I haven't seen a lot of super new data on it. The studies out there are still pretty small, or it lies with Grand Industry alone. So we kind of give it the Bakugyo treatment, which is cool. If you want to try it, it doesn't hurt. And the good thing is, thanks to brands like The Ordinary, you typically know what concentration you're getting. Yeah. But if you're already on tretinoin and works for you, or using retinol, using retinol, and they work fine, there's no reason to switch to HPR.
Exactly. This is definitely more for an option for people who've struggled with some of the more classic retinoids. And for us, I think the issue also is concentration's a little confusing around this active. Just, we always like to start low and slow, just so you understand how your skin reacts to it. And then if you really are curious to try, there's always, nowadays you see HPR, this Grand Active Retinoid, being used in blends, in anti-aging blends. So any sort of clinicals, any sort of second in insurance policy ingredients, those are all helpful. So anyways, hopefully that sheds some light on why we don't really talk about this active. And yeah, think of it as a Bakugyo. Yep. All right.
I think we're done.
We finished.
This was a loopy episode.
Yeah, hopefully, definitely look for a update on dry skin and, a routine guide to follow this podcast episode. Up next, we actually do know what's coming up next. We are going to talk about eye creams. There's a reason why.
Actually, we get so many questions about eye creams. I almost feel like at this point there's like 30 people that's probably like, okay, finally. Because a lot of times
we're going to say it like that. Why?
Because a lot of times
we're like, but yeah, so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of eye creams. And yeah, where can they find us, Gloria?
You can go to our website at chemistconfessions.com. You can find us on Instagram at chemist.confessions. You can write to us. We get back to you. It might be a few days, but we will get back to you.
Yeah, write to us at info@chemistconfessions.com. Otherwise, we will see you next time.